stripping everything back, GPT is basically a customized version of Chat GPT. Instead of typing a fresh prompt every time you build it once, you tell it exactly how to behave and you feed it the documents or style that it needs. From then on, it runs like an assistant that already knows your business. So for a coach, that might mean a GPT that writes your Instagram posts in your voice, not like the generic post that you can straight away tell that are on everyone's feed. It also could mean that it's a GPT that screens leads and books your calls, or one that explains your program to new clients. It's kind of like creating a new staff member, only it lives inside Chat GPT.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fitness Business Podcast with Brian Keane. I'm your host, Brian Keane, online fitness coach, Irish health entrepreneur, fitness entrepreneur, here with somebody who might be a little bit nervous and has a lot of preparation done for this podcast, which doesn't surprise me at all. A wonderful human being. We did 2 rounds of the mentorship. He's now a circle member, and it was his idea because he was actually going to share this with the group members in the circle. And I said, you know what, hold it, Paul. We'll actually do this as a public podcast so people can apply AI, use it to create content, build brand awareness, get more qualified sales. So Paul Hughes, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thanks very much, Brian.
Before we get into the masterclass on just using AI and how it can potentially help with content, building brand awareness, more qualified sales, because this is new for me as well. I'm a big proponent of AI using Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, and I'll run through some of my favorites as we progress through the podcast. But what you had and what you learned was a new skill that's been applied to your business. So this is new for me, so I'm learning firsthand as well. But before we get into that, tell people a little bit about your backstory, about the gym, what you do, who you serve, the online side with the lower back in terms of the fat loss and lower back combination, the offline with the classes, the strength and conditioning element. And so we've got a little bit of a backstory to who you are, who you serve, because it'll connect a lot with listening people or those that are listening.
I started out as a building surveyor, long hours commuting up and into Dublin, long hours sitting on the desk all day. 2016, I wrecked my back. I had 3 broken discs, sciatica, the whole lot. When I went to GP, he told me I'd never lift again. But instead of taking that as gospel, I went down the rabbit hole of rehab, looking into strength training, and eventually I became a personal trainer and strength coach myself. Now I serve busy men and women who have setbacks, injuries, flare-ups, and tried a dozen failed programs. My bread and butter, I suppose, is helping them get back to strong using structured training that doesn't break them in the process. And to be honest, the business wouldn't look the way it does now without your mentorship. You've helped me shift from training people in person to building out the online model as well, which opened the door to serving a lot more people. So, where does AI fit in? Well, like most coaches, I spend long hours every week repeating myself, answering the same DMs, writing endless content, handling lead follow-ups. So, like yourself, I started tinkering with Chat GPT and realized if I could build custom versions of it, I could save those hours and reinvest them into coaching. And that's kind of what today's masterclass is all about. So hopefully by the end of the episode, you'll know exactly how to build your own custom GPT inside Chat GPT, step by step. And if you could think of it like a training plan, but it's for your business systems.
I love it, Paul. Talk to me about that, because I mentioned right before we went down there and very briefly there, I'm coming in blind because I'm assuming people listening will be coming in blind in terms of building their own custom GPT within ChatGPT. So talk to us a little bit about the 0 to 1 with that. So what's the purpose of it? What does it do? And then we'll get into how to set it up.
Okay, Brian. Stripping everything back. GPT is basically a customized version of Chat GPT. Instead of typing a fresh prompt every time you build it once, you tell it exactly how to behave and you feed it the documents or style that it needs. From then on, it runs like an assistant that already knows your business. So for a coach, that might mean a GPT that writes your Instagram posts in your voice, not like the generic post that you can straight away tell that are on everyone's feed. It also could mean that it's a GPT that screens leads and books your calls, or one that explains your program phases to new clients. It's kind of like creating a new staff member, only it lives inside ChatGPT.
Oh, like I always think Terminator and Skynet, and this is like the first step towards it, but in a beneficial way for us at the minute. That sounds incredible. Talk to us about the setup time, and then I'll get into how you're using it. Does this take long to set up? Is it a case of minutes, hours, days, weeks? How long does it take to set up? And then is it a thing that you set up once and then it's good, or do you refine it and tweak it? And then we get into how you're using it.
It all depends on how you're going to use it. Say, for example, if you're nervous about building, start small. Inside ChatGPT, you've got a feature called custom instructions. That's where you literally paste in who you are, who you serve, and how you want ChatGPT to answer you. That's the entry-level version of customization. For us, it's a bit like starting with body weight, strength training before you add weights. And then for the higher level, it's a wee bit longer, but you're talking hours, not days or weeks. And like everything, you build it out and then you add and amend it as you go.
Is it a feature within the paid ChatGPT, or is it something you buy in addition to your ChatGPT membership?
It's part of the paid version, so you need to have the paid version, but it's not an extra.
Yeah, which is amazing because ChatGPT is at, I don't know, is it like €45 a year or something ridiculous? It's not expensive in terms of what you get from it. It's Google on steroids, and this sounds incredible. How have you been using it then primarily? What's it been the biggest time saver for you personally?
For me personally, it is creating posts, creating content.
For social media?
For social media.
Give us an example, because my brain is processing in real time now. So I have been using Claude, CLAUDE, but each time I use Claude, I have to put in, I'm Brian from Brian Keane Fitness. Here's my website. Here's my Instagram. Write me a post real description for X piece of content. So I've been using that recently, whereas this sounds like it's removing a step again because you're already building the custom GPT. So for you, using it for content, are you putting in the pain points? Are you putting in the idea for the video? Are you putting in it for hooks? How are you using it particularly for social media?
What you're doing every time is you're repeating yourself. You're basically saying, hi, my name is Brian. I'm a fitness entrepreneur. Your target audience, your avatar, you're getting the hooks, you're getting the triggers. You're telling it your call to action as well, what you want it to do. So basically within the customized version, you've already given it all that information. So it knows who you are, your backstory. It knows exactly the way how you talk from your previous posts, your emails, your blog posts. You could give it your podcasts. So it knows exactly how you talk. It knows your hooks because you might have already given it 30 different hooks that you wanted to use. You've given it your call to action, so it knows the outcome of what you want from it. So basically, all you have to say is, it give me my usual 5 social media posts based on this topic. That will automatically generate all those posts within your own voice based on your avatar, your hooks, and your call to action.
I love that. I'm after getting an idea in real time. So something that I've done with my main podcast, the Brian Keane podcast, is I've solo episodes where they're kind of very SEO blog based. So, 6 ways I rewired my mindset over the years, for example. And something that I have been toying with doing, but actually haven't, I won't even say out of laziness, just out of like not being able to prioritize the time to do this, is repurposing those 6 points into a reel for Instagram, because the content's already there, the message is already there, but I'm like, I don't want to have to listen back and do the script again. I'm just actually going to do this after this podcast. I'm going to try and put in that episode and see what comes back, and then you potentially have a real script out of it. And then I'm big on repurposing, as you know from working together, where that's potentially a carousel as well, where you're just taking those points and repurposing it into a carousel. Again, it sounds like AI is incredible in terms of the amount of time you can potentially get back when you've got the correct system set up and structure in place. Have you found, and this is a little bit of a tricky one to answer, I'm sure, in this earlier stage, but have you found that you're starting to get more, your brand awareness has really been climbing anyways. over the last year or so, you've been very good. Like your whole social has like flipped from kind of generic to you giving very specific helping points for people with lower back issues, etc., putting your face to it, your voice to it. Like your email list is great. I'm subscribed to your newsletter, so I get those every Friday, so I see all the back end stuff too. Have you found with this, have you seen an increase in either brand awareness, or is it a case that it's improved and increased your consistency, which is just going to build a brand over time? What's been kind of more relevant for you, or more in line with you that you've seen?
It's definitely improved my consistency. Basically, like the content GPT is trained on your writing style. So once you feed it 10 to 20 pages of your posts, your captions or emails, it will write the new content that sounds exactly like you. And then I don't do this, but if you pair it with Canva's bulk creation feature, then suddenly you've got 50 different posts scheduled in under an hour. That's something that coaches can literally set up today.
Is that, sorry, this is a question now, having not checked this intentionally before I came in, is that directly linked in? Canva's already linked in through the custom GPT, or is it something that you have to set up separately and then combine them?
It's something to set up separate, but Canva's is so easy to use.
And that's AI based too. Canva have their own AI feature that links in.
They do.
Wow. That's, yeah, there's a few things that blow my mind. Video blog AI is another one that I think you might have experimented with as well. I recommend it quite a lot in terms of taking your videos and it'll transcribe it into a blog for a newsletter, which can be really useful. And Perplexity, which I really like. Perplexity AI is kind of like ChatGPT, but really if you're researching for a book or something that you need the studies to back up what you're saying, Perplexity is a very, very useful tool. And again, it's the combination of all these AI that can help. I know we talked about this in the Circle membership with when Phil Graham was on. He was going through his favorites. I'm talking about my favorites. You're going through your favorites here as well. Out of curiosity, I've got two questions. One is, have you used it for the back end or the sales element in terms of automation? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And then more frequent or more relevant to now, are you using it in DMs and emails for replies, or are you still doing all that manually? Have you just isolated it mainly for content and then you're stopping it there, or have you started to experiment with using it in other shapes and forms?
At the moment, I have stopped it there. I don't use it for DMs, automatic DMs. I've tried that over a year ago with a different AI feature, and it was just too messy.
Was that ManyChat? Was it ManyChat that you were using as the... I've forgotten. You did tell me a year ago, but I've
No,
forgotten.
it was a paid subscription for... I don't really want to give the name because I'm sure it has improved now.
I remember. I remember it's coming back to me now, and part of that was probably my recommendation, because I'm a big believer in DMs, particularly keeping it personal. I think we're getting into an age and an era where people are assuming everything is automated or a bot, and there's like a pattern interrupt when the coach replies, the page replies, the person replies. And I've unintentionally got so many leads for programs and courses from just conversations back and forth, because I sent a voice note when someone said they were reading the book, or a voice note when somebody said, I loved the podcast on Monday, and it puts a real person to that, and then you end up picking up leads from it. So unless you're getting thousands of leads every week where you just can't manage them otherwise, if you're able to keep this element personal. I know we spoke about this in the Circle too in one of the training videos, with Gary, who's in there as well. He gets a lot of leads. It's a physical gym. He's busy. He's got a young kid at home, etc. We had to set up automations for that. But the me's and you's of the world, although we're busy, you've got kids as well and a business to run, the personalization element is always going to be helpful. You obviously want to, with the lead forms or with WhatsApp follow-up or ManyChat or whatever it is that people are using, you want to automate as much of it as possible so you're getting the time back, but you also want to make sure there's a personal element to it as well. So I think that's a really good shout. Out of curiosity, outside of the custom GPT, are you playing around with any other AI stuff, either any of the ones that I've mentioned or any new ones? Because we haven't touched on this. We said we'd hold it for the podcast.
Yes. So for social media, like I said, I have my custom GPT. With that, I still take what it creates and I plug it into Gemini, which is Google's version of GPT, and then it would give forward recommendations that ChatGPT wouldn't have thought of, and then I take those recommendations, feed it back into ChatGPT, and then I take what it creates and refines, and then I feed that back into Claude, and it rewrites it even more and brings more pieces into the puzzle, which Gemmy and ChatGPT might not have thought of. Phrases slightly different, and it gives more recommendations. So then I take that back into the GPT. That way you have covered the best of 3 different AI features. So you have a more well-rounded and more researched post or topic taken from all angles. Whereas what we tend to do is we get fixed on one thing, one tool. And again, like these AI features, they're not all the same. Like they're being fed different information behind the scenes. Like you're getting fed certain documents. Obviously, it's all generic, so everything's just dumped into it. If you give it a generic command, you're going to get a generic response back, and it's not going to be totally related to your business. So basically, as coaches, we have to double down on who we're serving. So take as much research from each of these programs as possible. Fact check it as well, because it's generic information, and yes, strictly speaking, it might be from the textbooks, but real world coaching and advice trumps everything. So again, just be careful. Just don't put in a prompt, get an answer, or get a post without reading it and double checking it yourself. Just make sure it's true to you and your business. So basically what I'm trying to say is, yes, I use all of the models and not just one.
Understanding the limitation of the specific one that you're using is very important, and I'm glad you said that, because it was very funny. I had one of my, you actually didn't meet him because he's gone on honeymoon now, because he plans to join the circle when he comes back, but I banned him from using ChatGPT because he went from not using any of them to using it for everything, and I was like, you are not allowed to use it anymore unless it's for research purposes. I was like, there is no way, I've never heard these words come out of your mouth. And then he was laughing at me at one of the meetings, or one of the 2-hour calls. He was like, yeah, I've been a bit addicted to it recently. I was like, yes. I was like, you need to filter it through your own words, your own language, make sure it fits your brand and what you're doing. And it's very interesting, because we can become over reliant on these things. We can become over reliant without putting the filtering or putting our own voice to it. And then that kind of defeats the purpose of using the tool correctly to serve people, because you can follow accounts online and you know whose voices, Brian's, whose voice is Paul's, whose voice is a machine. And what I love about the circle, because I end up learning so much from you guys as well, because you're down on the 20th of September, we're going for a workout. We've got our seminar, a meet up on the 20th of September for the circle, which would be class. So everyone gets to meet each other. And what I love about it is I picked up this from you. I picked up Claude from Megan, who's been on this podcast as well. And then I put in my favorite AI tools that I'm using. So everyone's kind of learning from each other, and then talking about the issues, the limitations, what to watch out for. I'm a big fan. You probably haven't used this yet, Paul, but again, it might be useful down the line for potential corporate talks, etc. Is a Gamma app for the PowerPoints and the slide decks. That's incredible as well. I gave a corporate talk last week on sleep. It was 3 very random topics. It was sleep in the workplace, nutrition for productivity, and social media to build your business, all in the one talk. And I put that into the Gamma app. It spat back all the entire slide deck, and then I just edited it to my voice and spoke around it. So you're rocking up with presentations that I used to outsource to people and pay, or would take me 2 hours to design, is now taking 30 seconds, and then you're able to talk around your topic. Incredible tools that people can use going forward. I want to pivot out of AI. So if you are listening to this purely for the AI masterclass, that's what we're going to park it, because Paul has been in business for a long time. We first met back when I was doing the business seminars. And, we got on, we were chatting, we started working together in the mentorship, we became friends. You were also a fitness client, getting in amazing shape for your 40th. And I was doing training programs that I was doing myself, because I was designing them for you to make sure that they were hard enough. So we ended up doing a lot together over the past year or so. Now in the circle, we'll be catching up again on the 20th in September, close to when this goes out in 2025. If you're listening beyond, that'll obviously be over. But I would be remiss to not ask about some of the business mistakes you've made. You've been doing this for a long time. You're very successful at what you do. You are at a high level now in terms of the online side being built, the optimization for the offline, the way you bring in leads, the way you run your ads, etc. I think there's a lot of people listening who will get a lot of value from either some of the mistakes you made or some of the things that you would do differently if you were going back. So I want to ask a couple of questions around that if you're okay to answer. The first one is, what is something in business that you apply now in the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years that you didn't do in the beginning but you should have started a lot sooner? So I think of, if it's 2025, it's probably AI. For me, it was, starting a podcast so that I had a long form piece of content, a lot of things that I was too slow to. But again, going any direction, whether it's marketing, the business side, etc., something that you do now and have done for the last year or 2 years or so, but you wish you had started earlier on in the journey.
Again, going back to something you told me 2 or 3 years ago, is start a podcast and to start doing more videos of myself and my content. They're the two biggest things that have helped me that I should have been doing sooner.
Can I ask about the video and the content? Because something that comes up a lot for people, I had a mentorship meeting right before we came on air, so I appreciate the reschedule because I doubled over the booking, so you're a legend, Paul. Thank you. But one of the things he was struggling with, which is a very common trend, is that 0 to 1 with video content. I don't want to be on video. I feel uncomfortable on video. And now you do it in its very second nature. I assume it's not uncomfortable anymore because it comes across very natural after all this time. How did you find, or what advice would you give either to the you of back then or to someone in a similar starting position who's afraid to put themselves out there on video, on social media for a whole host of reasons? What advice would you give to you back then or to somebody in that similar starting position?
Just do it. Just do it. Actually, I still absolutely hate video. It terrifies me every time before I do it. It will almost keep me up the night before. I just absolutely hate it, but it's just something that we have to get on with in 2025 because that's what the audience watches and what the audience consumes. I've had a lot of positive feedback from it, from clients and general public in terms of how it's coming across. So that motivates me to keep going. It's basically showing the audience who I am and that I'm not some generic name or some generic business. It's the person being personal, showing a face. It does get easier for most people, but if you're like me, it doesn't. But you just have to do it. I tend to do the voiceovers. Basically, what that means is I write out what I'm going to say and I record myself saying it through my phone, and then I go back and I do the video clips. So that's much easier than speaking directly into the camera. And I suppose that's my safe space at the moment.
It's good, and the consistency is really good with it, and it comes across really well. It's funny because we haven't spoken about this, but it doesn't come across like you're nervous anymore. The first couple it would, because that's how everybody is in the beginning. So great job feeling the fear and doing it anyways. I'll give you time to think on these next 2 questions, and I'll answer them to give you time to think because I haven't prepped you at all with any of the questions except that we're going to be talking about AI. I want to ask about underrated tools and overrated tools. So when I think of overrated tools in business, I ironically think social media is very overrated, and not for the sense or the reasons that people think. I think it's overrated in the sense that you need a lot of followers to grow a business. What you need is high quality potential leads and clients and customers following you and people whose pain points you can serve. So I think a large following is very overrated, or in the sense that people think this is what they need to do. They need to have a large following to build online, to build offline, to have a successful business, when in reality, yes, it can be gasoline on a fire and it can amplify things, but it's definitely not necessary. When you think of overrated tools in general, but particularly applied to your business, is there anything that people preach online, on podcasts, in books, that they're like, this is, everyone needs to do this, it's incredible, but you actually find it very overrated in the sense of how it relates to your business?
The most overrated thing is, the social media following, as you said. Like, again, my social media is 1,500 followers. That's grown by 1,000 since we started working together, by the way.
That's all your execution, mate.
But again, before that, I've had thriving in-person personal training business and small group training for the last 6 years or so, and that was on less than 500 followers, and a lot of them would be friends and family. You've said in the past, like, if you have 100 followers and 10 of them are paying clients, that's enough. And it's so true.
With the 10, if you're good at what you do and good at what you craft, and you are excellent at what you do, in terms of, like, I've sent you clients, actually sent you one, the lead this week, because I'm like, I'm not a fit. That's actually someone that's going to be way better with Paul. Because you're so good at what you do, even starting with 5 or 10 leads to more clients through referrals, through word of mouth, through family members and friends. So again, it's thinking rationally in terms of the business side, because people get drowned out in that, well, I don't have social media, can't build a business, etc., when it's just a limiting belief or a limiting story. Flip side of that, underrated tools. So I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, because it might be the referrals, the word of mouth that you mentioned, because I was going to answer an underrated tool, which sounds like a peculiar one, and you touched on it earlier, is I still think a podcast is a very underrated tool. Not a massive podcast. So the Brian Keane podcast, my flagship show, is a very, very big show. I could, in theory, bring on sponsors and self-contain and have that podcast its own business completely. I like self-sponsoring it. It makes more revenue for me. It's more in alignment with me at the minute, unless I change strategy. But even this podcast, which is decent, but it's not to the level of 0.5% of global podcasts, it generates really good leads for me. You listen to the content, other people that are listening now, they end up coming through courses, into the circle, into the mentorship, or end up meeting them at events, and you're very aligned. I think it's very underrated, even in the sense of, the lower back podcast we were talking about, are covering those pain points, that you're speaking a one-way conversation, long form, building up a like, know and trust factor, very, very short period of time, that someone could find out about you on a Friday, listen to 3-4 podcasts, and they've signed up with you as a client on a Monday. I think that's very, very underrated. Even if you only have 10 listeners, you potentially have 7 people who have that pain point because they clicked the episode, and you get 5 leads and you convert 2 or 3 clients off that. What is an underrated tool for you? And feel free to go with the referrals, word of mouth, if that's what you're thinking, or if it's a different answer completely, in terms of either an amplifier for the business, Paul, or something that just works really well for you.
For me, the most underrated thing would be connecting with other coaches. And that's through the likes of the mentorship with yourself, one-to-one, to really bring your game forward. It's the same, like, coaches need coaches. So the mentorship, like, that is the likes of your circle, where you're able to bounce more ideas off a lot more coaches who are at the same level or slightly above you. That's a game changer as well.
I firstly thank you. I appreciate that so much. And again, we're in that kind of line now where we're friends, because we've been spending so much time with the programming and the mentorship, and we chat a lot, and we'll have our workout when you come down here on the 20th as well. So it's such a great connection. And the reason for the circle was, one, for the Hughes of the world, the Megans of the world, Aidan, when he comes into it, when he's finished at the end of this month, a whole host of other people, being able to stay and help grow the business, but connecting other people and coaches. What I learned from my own experience is entrepreneurship can be really lonely. Like, you can go lonely in the sense that even if you're in a physical gym, you're still the operator, the person running it, and it can feel a lot and a bit overwhelming at times. And then when you connect with these other people who are doing something similar, and they're slightly above, and some that are slightly below, and some at the same level, it just, you're having these conversations, you're like, oh, I'm not alone, I feel seen. And then you pick up ideas, and there's a cross-pollination of ideas. And between we use just AI as one example here. Like, I learned so much from you guys, because today you talking about the custom GPT, Megan when she put up Claude, and a whole host of things have happened in the circle, because we've got our private Telegram group that's just for us to chat to each other during the week. We put up our wins, the August wins on Monday, like all these things that are just, it's such a cool connection to have. So yeah, mate, absolutely delighted to have you in it, and a pleasure to have you in it. I've got one final question, but before I get on to that, Paul, for anyone that wants to follow up with you, follow on social media, the website I'm going to link, of course, anywhere you want to send people, or anything that you want to guide people towards the podcast, etc., as that starts to explode and get bigger, please do that now. And then I'll get into the final question, which will be on advice you would ask yourself when you were starting off, or give yourself when you were starting off, because I think that will be quite useful for anybody looking to kind of grow and scale and, you know, build a business that you have and continually grow to what you're doing with the online side and continually optimizing the offline. So any links you want to give, any place you want to send people, and then we'll get on to the final question.
Yes, so the likes of my podcast, which is the Lower Back Pain Podcast, that actually helps. And also my Instagram is Templetown Strength Conditioning. My website is templetownsc.com. So yeah, if this chat has sparked the ears, or if you want to go deeper, I'll put together a PDF for coaches for how to start your own simple GPT with templates and prompts to just save you hours every week. Just DM me GPT on Instagram and I'll send it over.
Amazing. I'll put all those links in the description below, and I'm also just going to add a call to action as somebody that has seen how good you are as a coach, but also has worked with you as a fitness client, that coaches need coaches. If there's anyone listening to this podcast and you're struggling with lower back issues, especially if you have body composition goals on top of that, Paul is one of the best at handling that in terms of your rehabilitation, your strength and conditioning, being able to progressively overload and scale it back as needed. So I'm going to give a strong call to action for any business owners, fitness business owners, personal trainers, coaches who are struggling with this, who need to outsource it to an expert. So that's my hard call to action for people off the back of this. Paul, final question. Advice when you were starting off. And again, I had a couple of areas that I wanted to cover, and we've touched on nearly all of them here, and I want to wrap with something that would have helped you in the early days, because I think if you're in business for year 1, year 5, year 10, year 15, year 20, people have glass ceilings that they hit, that sometimes the advice they'd offer starting off helps. So the advice when I'm trying to break through a glass ceiling is the same advice I needed from day one, which sounds funny because you're going from trying to earn €100 to 100,000 euro to €1 million to beyond. That sometimes the same question actually provides a lot of answers. So I'm curious, what's the advice you would offer anybody starting off with personal training, online coaching, building up a gym, building up small group PT, or the you when you were starting off first? What advice would you give yourself?
Never stop learning. Just keep educating yourself. You cannot know enough. Again, and once you think you know it all, you know nothing.
That's so true. The curse of knowledge. It's so funny. Have you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so for anyone unfamiliar with that, the Dunning-Kruger effect is when you have a little bit of knowledge and you think you're an expert, and unfortunately social media is full of people with the Dunning-Kruger effect, and the opposite, or the antithesis of that, is as you continually learn and you become an expert, you're like, actually there's a lot I don't know. And again, I think it just makes you a better coach. I think it's an amazing message for everybody listening, an amazing message for me. And Paul, thank you so much again for your kind words, for all the conversations we've had over the last year, the ones we're going to have in the future, and for coming on with this masterclass today, helping people with AI, and even more so talking through your business experience and what you've learned. So mate, keep doing what you're doing, and thank you so much again.
Thanks very much, Brian. Thanks for having me.
That was Circle member Paul Hughes, the masterclass on using AI to create content, build brand awareness, and make more qualified sales. Great episode. I learned so much from this one myself in real time, and I am going straight on to custom GPT on GPT now to help me build out more ideas and content for online that will generate more brand, or build more brand, potentially generate more sales, and everything that we went through in today's episode. Today's episode was also sponsored by my Circle and Business Mentorship Program. Both are linked in the description below. If you want to use me or work with me to potentially move your business forward like Paul, that link will be below. That's everything from me from today's podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Catch you in a couple of weeks.